Monday. My name is Michelle, and I'm the Director of Children's Ministries at Los Altos United Methodist Church. Welcome to my kitchen. For today's Maker Monday activity, we are going to bake a delicious cake. Now, you should always bake a cake, because why not? But this cake is specifically a welcome home cake. Yesterday in Sunday school, we talked about the prodigal son and celebrating people's returns. So our Changemaker in Action, one of our Changemaker in Action activities is to bake a cake to welcome somebody home. Maybe it's a parent that goes to work, or maybe you haven't seen your grandparents in a while. Welcoming whoever is coming home. So, I love cake, and we could make a cake from scratch, but it's really easy to make a cake from a box. So I got a super moist chocolate fudge cake mix. You can use whatever flavor you want, and instead of using icing or frosting, because that's not necessarily my favorite thing, we are going to use pudding, which is delicious. So I got chocolate pudding to go with my chocolate cake. I like chocolate, if you didn't figure that out already. Choose whatever flavor you want though. You could use like chocolate and butterscotch would be good, or like vanilla and vanilla, chocolate and vanilla. So many options. So, I am now going to read the instructions on the box and make my cake mix. Okay, now that I've made my cake mix, just following the instructions on the box, I'm ready to pour it into the pan. I chose a large 9x13 pan because I think that's a really easy way to make a cake. We will be making a layered cake though. So if you want to do it in 2 8-inch or 9-inch rounds, you can. That also works just fine, the circular ones. But what I'm going to do is pour the mix in, bake it, let it cool down, and then cut it in half. So I have 2 halves. All right. Question. Tell me in the comments, do you like the bowl or do you not? Because I know there are eggs and that could be dangerous, but really, I want to lick my finger. Alright, so my cake is in the oven. It has 29 minutes left. I just followed the instructions on the box. While it's baking, we are going to make our jello. So, the instructions on the jello box just say, beat pudding mix with 2 cups of cold milk with a whisk for 2 minutes. So, I'm going to do that. Looks good. Now this cake needs to cool down all the way, so it shouldn't be hot at all. I'm going to turn off the oven and let that cool. Okay friends, now we're getting to the good part. We're going to assemble our cake now. So we've followed the instructions on the box for our cake. We've followed the instructions on the box for our pudding, and now we're going to put it together. This might be the greatest thing. I suggest you ask for a little bit of help from your parents because we are going to be using a knife. A serrated knife, I think, is the best way. So what we're going to do is make a layered cake. But to do that, we have to make the top of our cake flat. So I'm going to cut the top off, and we're going to put it aside in a bowl because we're going to use that delicious cake. We are not going to waste it. Okay. Okay. Now it's okay if it crumbles. we are going to crumble it even more. Now I'm going to take a little bit more off the side here. Looks pretty straight. Alright, so now what I'm going to do, we want to have our plate ready that we're going to put our cake on. So I'm going to make a little bit of room. Our kitchen isn't very big, so we make do. What I'm going to do is cut my large cake in half. Now if you made two smaller cakes, you won't do this. You'll just take the top off, flatten it, and move on to the next step. This part's pretty easy, just cut it in half. It may not be perfect, we can fix it if needed. Alright, so I'm going to put one half of the cake on my plate, and I've got my pudding. I'm going to take about a third of my pudding mixture and spread it on this bottom cake. The pudding is an excellent alternative to frosting if you don't like frosting very much, like me. Now this part gets hidden, so it doesn't really matter how pretty it is. Okay, we've got a layer of frosting. Now the second half of our cake goes on top of the first. Just like that. Okay, we're going to use the rest of our pudding to cover the entire cake. Crazy, right? But so good. So I'm just going to kind of dump pudding on top. And then it's going to go down the sides. This part is a little bit messy, but it's all chocolate. Alright, my cake is covered in pudding. It's kind of a mess, but we're going to make it a beautiful mess now. So remember the top that we cut off, and I said we were going to do something with it? What we're going to do is crumble it up into little crumbs. Crumble it up into little crumbs. And we're going to take our crumbs, and this is our decoration, and we're going to press it into the pudding. Because pudding is a little, like, wet and sticky, so we need something to make it less messy. And it turns out crumbs are the perfect thing, and we end up not wasting anything, which is kind of the best. There's no art to this, but somehow it turns out looking like art. I'm going to have to clean the floor when I'm done with this, I'm dropping crumbs everywhere. But that's okay. As long as it's worth it. Pat it down. Ta-da! So here's our cake. If you have like a little bit of icing, you could write a message on top, but it really doesn't need it. Just enjoy. Wash your hands. Clean up after yourself. I have a little bit of pudding left over. I'm going to eat right now. The rest I'm going to save for dessert after dinner. Think about who you want to share your cake with. Maybe it's your entire family. Maybe you take your cake and you give it to a neighbor or a friend. Maybe you know someone who has a birthday this week and you could bake that cake for them. Or if you know somebody who's coming home from the hospital or from work or from anywhere really, you could give it to them. Most of all, just enjoy celebrating your family that you love so much. All right, have a great week, and I will see you Wednesday for our Bible story. Bye.